to another edition of the Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcasts with my dear friend, my partner, and my sparring partner at times, the great Gordon Wittenmeyer. I'm David Kaplan. All right, Gordon, let's talk about injuries first, because as we're recording this, you and I are both locked in on the Cubs-Pirates game with Skeens against Hendricks, but the Cubs, I believe, have had 15 different guys on the injured list since the season began, including out of their rotation, Wicks, Steele, Tyone, Smiley, who was pitching as a starter earlier in the season. I don't know if I'm missing anybody else there. And then your top relievers, Alzolay to Merriweather to Palencia, like the guys that are all your hard throwers, they've all been on the injured list.
And the biggest problem is that, let me see here. I'm looking at a list right now. 7, 8, 9. I think 10 of them are currently on the list. And that's not even counting Nico Horner, who
has missed 5 straight games, but they think he's coming back on Saturday the 18th. So if that's the case, then you'll get him back. But, I'm looking up the last few days, and you've got Nick Madrigal. No disrespect to Nick, but he's not a starting level second baseman on a team that thinks they can go to the playoffs. Miles Mastrobuoni is starting at shortstop. And then you've had, all these different issues going on with these injuries, underperformance like Ian Happ. It's an issue, and yet they find themselves starting play today 2 games out of first. Crazy. In
playoff position. Yeah. You have to. So you got to like that. You're almost a third of the way into the season, and this team all beat to hell with nothing out of Kyle Hendricks until here just recently. And they're in playoff position right now. They also have had much of their toughest stretches in the schedule. So I was looking at that. They don't have a real. They've got a week here and a week there where they've got, like, I got the Braves coming up, and down the road early September they got the Yankees and the Dodgers back to back. But they don't have a real lengthy stretch of just nothing but tough teams. So if they can get just a little bit more right, it could line up for them. But they can't keep going out there with a middle infield of Mastrobuoni and Madrigal for much longer. So they're going to have to make a decision on Nico fast, because you've already gone past the back date max on him. So now if you wind up putting him on the IL, it's not a 10-day deal anymore. You've lost him for 12 or more at this point.
Correct. And it sounds like they think he's going to be able to play on Saturday. But it's funny, as I'm looking up, Nico is like on the top step of the dugout, leaning on the fence with his glove on. Like, he's not just having sunflower seeds and a Gatorade here. Like, he is hanging out. He could come into the game, I guess, but it sounds like they are going to try and play him on Saturday. So I think
maybe he just wants to catch a foul ball, Cap.
Maybe line shot. I caught it. The other player, I think Wisdom spent some time on the injured list.
Oh, okay. So what are we up to? 16?
I think 15.
Yeah.
15 guys, and yet they start play with the Brewers going on their longest trip to date, 9 games, starting on Friday night in Houston, a team that's starting to play better baseball and trying to, not fall too far out of contention with their terrible start.
Yeah.
And the Cubs will have already played a game, so we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. So my question to you is, we saw them pick up a pitcher in a trade with Seattle, because even though he was throwing the ball really well, 12-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, the Cubs have been able to have a real problem in their bullpen. The Mariners have had good pitching in their pen. They needed to get this guy through waivers. It was never going to happen, so they DFA'd him. The Cubs took him. So interesting stuff going on in that bullpen. But I also think they may need to add a bat at some point.
Ooh, that's interesting. If I'm right now, you got to concentrate on pitching and getting some of your guys healthy. And I would go even further than that as far as the bat goes. The bat's probably the number 3 priority, because you've got a bullpen problem, well documented. And most of those guys currently on the IL are bullpen guys. So that compounds the issue. So you got to get relievers. You got to get some more depth out there. If you plan to get to October, never mind do anything in October. So that's clear and away the number 1 priority. But when you start talking about bats, I'm going to throw another one at you. Gloves. Because this is a bad fielding team right now as we sit here.
It is. Now, again, no Horner, no Swanson, but on Thursday night, even Craig Counsell in his postgame remarks that I watched after the game, he said, okay, first inning, we got a double play that should be made. They only get 1 out, and the next thing you know, a ball's in the seats, and it's 2-0. Exactly. Then they hit a line drive at Seiya Suzuki, and he comes in, and he misses it. It hits his glove. Another run scores. So now
and they can't afford that. We just documented the bullpen situation. So if you've got a 2-run lead late and you're putting it in the hands of that bullpen, you better catch every ball and make every play.
No question about it.
They're not doing it. Some of the guys are hurt. Dansby wasn't having a great season before he got hurt. So your best hope there is that he plays to his career track record when he comes back, and that he's fully healthy, and that gives you a lift in 2 ways. Nico being back in the lineup, and certainly if he's able to be at second, now you've got that middle infield again, which has been one of the best in the league. So you have to have that. But if you're going to go get somebody, I might try to shore up my run prevention a little bit, and that doesn't cost you as much as going out and getting a bat, because at some point you've got to. You're not going to DFA or option Hap, and you can't sit him on the bench in perpetuity. He got a couple of days off the other day, but you got to believe in him. You got to believe he's going to hit at some point. He had a home run yesterday.
He had a home run. It was his first as a left-hand batter, which he's better lefty than he is as a right-hand hitter. But he's got one of each. You're paying that dude, and again. This is not me blasting Ian Happ. This is just me spitting facts. If he was sitting right here next to me, he'd say, "You're right."
Yeah,
he cannot be this bad offensively at a $20 million salary. He cannot.
Right, but do you think he's going to be that bad all year long? I mean, baseball has a way of kind of evening out, and I'm not sitting here trying to break down in any kind of great detail what's going on with Happ. He's striking out a lot. There's tons of swing and miss I guess they're throwing him a lot more sliders and breaking balls, and he's just not on them like he has been in the past, which tells me if he's healthy, he's not at the end of his career. It should even out at some point to some degree. We saw what happened with Suzuki last year. He went on a tear. He got a few days off. What was it, August or something like that?
He said the last 80 days he was top 5 offensive player in all the games.
Yeah. So like I said, and Happ has been a streaky hitter in the past.
He hasn't, but he's got to get going. He has.
So, unless something's wrong with him physically, I have to expect that there's a tear coming. There's going to be a month where he's just on fire, because we've seen it before. I don't know when that's coming. You can't. You're not in a situation where you're saying, well, it'll be too little, too late. They're in playoff position right now. They're hanging in there, and it's because of the top 3 starters in a rotation. They've been amazing.
So Jed Hoyer. By the way, the Cubs are now trailing 4-0. And make that 5-0 because they just airmailed home plate. And so another defensive miss.
As we speak.
A base hit to center now has a man at third and 2 runs in, because they not only Pete Crow Armstrong airmailed the catcher all the way to the backstop. So with 2 outs, they've scored 3 runs, the Pirates. That stuff can't happen.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Against a really elite arm in Paul Skeens.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's not the stuff of playoff teams. But they're hanging in there right now. But that's where they have to get better. And I don't worry about hitting around the game overall is down. It has been down this first quarter plus of the season. Will it get better as the summer goes on? Probably will, if only because of the weather, or if it continues to stay down. Major League Baseball will manipulate the baseballs again or something. You know how that works. So I think I don't worry about that. I don't think that the hitting is going to be what makes or breaks them, but the fielding might be, especially when you're shaky in the late innings with this bullpen. So those are the priorities to me.
So let's talk also about what they do with this pitching staff. Like Kyle Hendricks, we're in the 4th inning, and he's given up 5 runs. Now, again, they're not hitting the ball out of the yard other than the 2-run homer. This inning was a bloop to left, a single to center, a bad throw, and the next thing you know, you're 5 runs in the hole. When they get themselves healthy, what are you doing with Kyle Hendricks if it was up to you?
Well, I thought I saw some signs of some life in him, some renewed life in him before this. I give him – you have the luxury right now that not only still being early in the season and your season being in good shape, but also you've got a place in your rotation for him right now. I let him pitch, and as long as he's competitive, I leave him there because that frees me up to have more options, more days with some of the other good arms that would otherwise have to be considered to replace him in the rotation.
Like Ben Brown can pitch at the back end of your bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think they're going through a really bad stretch right now with 15 guys that have spent time on the injured list. When you look, Gordon, the other day, I'm watching the game, and you know me, I'm emotional. I get crazy. I understand that. That's who I am. I'm watching the game. My wife hears me yelling. She's like, what? What are you yelling about? I'm like, we got Madrigal starting at second. We got Mastroboni starting at short. Morrell fouls another ball off his foot. Ian Happ hasn't done a lot. Like I'm looking at the bottom of the lineup. Miguel Amaya's 4 for his last 46. Solid defensive player, but inept at the plate. 4 for 46. So when you look at your lineup and you go, wow, we're facing a quality major leaguer here. Oh, Mastroboni, Madrigal, Amaya, Ian Happ. It's like 4 automatic freaking outs.
Goes back to what I said, though. When you're facing these guys, when you are facing a really good pitcher, you have to beat them with a good pitcher. You have to beat them with run prevention, and then hope you score 2-3 runs. You got enough to do that. You should have enough to do that. But the fielding has been terrible.
The fielding has been awful. Now the weather's starting to turn. Starting to get warmer. It's gorgeous here in Chicago, 81 degrees and sunny. It's a beautiful day, but they have got to start looking better offensively at the plate. And I know when you look, Mike Tauchman's had a really nice start to his year. He's still Mike Tauchman. When it's Mike Tauchman, Madrigal, Mastroboni, Amaya, and
how long?
They're all in the lineup today.
How long does Tauchman have to produce in these matchup situations or whenever he gets played for you to not say he's still Mike Tauchman? I mean, he's been productive for them. He's done his job pretty well.
Yeah. If I'm looking at him going, oh, he's hitting 278, good. We're okay. If he's at the bottom of my lineup, when he's one of my key run producers, I mean, I just gave you a 9-man lineup of Amaya, 4 for 46. Madrigal, who's got an OPS just above me. Mastroboni, Happ. I love Chris Morrell, but he's banged up and he's hitting like 212. I know he hit some home runs. I've got like 5 out of 9 I'm not real confident they're going to do much for me.
Who are you going to go get?
I don't know. I got to know, is Swanson coming back? Is his knee feeling better? Am I going to hear, no, Dansby's not close because his knee's bad? That's a problem. Is Horner coming back tomorrow? I hope so. I mean, there's a lot of issues with this team right now that is more than a little concerning.
Yeah, there are, keep it in perspective, though, because when we talk about, let's say we're talking about the fielding. I was looking some of these numbers up, teams around baseball. Most of the division is at the bottom in fielding. The Brewers are the only better than average fielding team in the division. The Cardinals are barely middle of the pack. The other three are down at the bottom with the Cubs. So is that an excuse not to catch the ball? Of course not. They have to get better there. And you're right to focus on Dansby with that. But just having Horner back in the middle on either side of second base is a big plus from where you're sitting right now. So there is that, and hitting's down in a lot of places. There's a lot of bad teams out there, and even good teams that have, for instance, bullpen problems. And there's not a lot of pitching out there. The Cubs right now are in good position with their starting rotation. I mean, how can you? I mean, they're getting superhuman efforts out of a few of those guys, and that's not typical when you look around the game, even among some of the good teams. So that plays, man. Starting pitching plays. So I can't believe I'm the one that's trying to preach, don't be all doom and gloom.
Yeah, and I am doom and gloom. Paul Skeens struck out the first 7 batters on Friday. The first 7.
Yeah.
And we're now sitting here in the 5th inning when he's got a no-hitter going.
Yeah. I mean, he's the real deal, right? He's the future for that franchise. And that's twice now already against the Cubs. So at least he'll be off the schedule for a while.
I told you the Brewers start their trip. They're in Houston. They're 2 games in front of the Cubs, assuming the Cubs don't come back from being 5 in the hole, being no hit with 1 out here in the 4th inning. I mean, I'm watching the guy while we're talking. Every pitch is 99 to 100. Every one.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is legit.
Yeah. He's got a nice breaking ball too, man. Well, again, you won't have to face him anytime soon again. I don't think he's not on the. So you got that. I just don't think. I know they haven't played well. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Not a good sign. They got to get those guys back in the middle infield. That's what they got to do.
They're 9-11, I believe, their last 20, and the White Sox are 11-9.
Go get Kopech.
I would take Michael Kopech. He might need a fresh start. The Brewers, as I said, on a 9-game trip, 3 at Houston. Then they go to the Marlins to play 3. And then the Brewers go from the Marlins. I think they get a day off on Thursday. And then next weekend, the Brewers are going to be at the Red Sox. So that's their trip. Houston, Miami, Boston.
How many games is that? Is that 9 or is it 10?
9. Oh,
they're going to come back 6-3.
Think so?
Yeah.
I'll make a wager with you they don't come back 6-3.
Yeah.
5-4 the best.
Nah, that'd be 6-3. None of those teams are any good. Houston's not a good team this year.
Houston has talent, though, and they're starting to play better.
6-3. 6-3.
A little lunch wager?
All right, you got it.
We got a lunch wager. I say they will not be 6-3. We'll find out starting today. And by the way, this Paul Skeens, I have Skeens envy. Oh, man, would I like to have like that.
I know, man. When we were talking about pitching prospects before, I kept thinking, yeah, the Cubs are leaning on. And by the way, they've been good, right? Wisniewski, not really a prospect. He's been banging around a couple of years, but Ben Brown's come in, done a good job. So you give him credit. where credit's due and all that. But when we were talking about these guys early in the season, I'm thinking about guys like Skeens and some of these other guys around baseball, some of these elite guys around baseball. And I'm thinking, man, the Cubs are thinking October and they're counting on all these young guys. That was my case. Going out and getting somebody. It may yet bite him in the ass, but
Cade Horton could be our Paul Skeens.
What?
Cade Horton was the freaking 7th pick overall, dude.
I know he could, and so was Rhett Lauder, who's climbing the ranks fast in Cincinnati's organization from last year's draft. But these guys aren't Paul Skeens, man. I mean, these guys could be really good, impact guys. Your Paul Skeens, poor man's Paul Skeens, all right. Could be real good, but also he's not going to come in. He's not ready to come in and carry a load for you. He's going to come in when he's ready after pitching a bunch in the minors this year, and then he's going to be on a limit, and he could be a bullpen guy. He could be your poor man's David Price from 2008 is what he could be.
We have to get to the World Series like that Tampa Bay Rays team did under Joe Matt.
And that was part of how they did it.
All right, you've seen a bunch of teams around baseball. I watch baseball every night. I'm not all in here on May the 17th. I'm not all in on the Dodgers. I'm not. They're good.
You know, I went into the Padres clubhouse not too long ago and saw Darvish, and it was right as he was coming back, and we chatted for a little bit.
Tell you to tell me hi.
What's that?
Did he tell you to tell me hello?
He did not. We did not talk about you, Cap. But he was talking about how he felt and what the team looked like. I said, you guys still have a lot of players here. People want to write you guys off, but they went out and got Dylan Cease and
Luis Arise.
Right. But this was even before they made that trade, the Arise trade. So I told him. He says, yeah, people forget that they still have good players and they expect to win. And I said, I think there's 3 teams in that division who could beat the Dodgers this year. And, we commiserated a little bit. He agreed.
That's Arizona, San Diego, and the Giants?
And the Giants. Now, the Giants, this was a couple weeks ago. And the Giants did just enough to be sneaky good. And if everything were to fall right, they could make a run at some point.
Yeah, I don't see the Giants, but I do see San Diego.
Yeah, and Arizona could come back around. So, especially if Jordan Montgomery gets on a run and Gallen rebounds a little bit. And Corbin Carroll's had a terrible start, but he'll be better by the end of the year. So my point is I kind of agree with you. But it's one of those things where the Dodgers are so good and so deep that, like, you see a couple of flaws and you say, oh, yeah, they can be beat. Sure, they can. They just got beat. It should have been 7-0, 7-2 by the Reds, who hadn't barely won 2 games in the last, half a month. And they did it with a bullpen day. The Reds did. So, yeah, can they be beat? Sure. Do they have the best top 3 guys in any lineup in baseball? Yes. So
I said to you, here's a ticket. You're in Vegas. You're walking up at the Wynn to the sports book, and I said, Gordon, there's a $500 voucher. You can bet it on one team to win the World Series. Who are you betting?
Philadelphia.
I could see that. I would not use it on the Dodgers. I don't think they're winning the World
Series. I wouldn't use it on the Dodgers either, because I wouldn't use it on the Dodgers. They're going to get to the playoffs, but once they're there, there's going to be teams that can come at you with a couple of studs and maybe 3 in a rotation.
The Yankees would be on my list. The Yankees are good now.
Oh, yeah. The Yankees are good. And they're still banged up. They're going to get better.
All right, last thing. You were talking with Scott Boras yesterday. and Scott Boras is Juan Soto's agent. Juan Soto is on a 1-year deal with the Yankees, and Hal Steinbrenner came out how much they love him and they'd love to have him. And now Soto's quoted as saying, yeah, I would be willing to talk to them for sure. Is this a change in Boras policy because of what went on over the winter where he had guys not getting big deals, or that's just a bunch of pablum and it's not anywhere close to them discussing a
lot? No, I don't think so. I think this is I don't think it's a departure. And he's done this before. He's done it specifically before with Washington, for instance. The Nationals got aggressive and he re-upped Strasburg there. They talked in season, I believe, with Soto, and before the Nationals wound up trading him. They had a huge offer on the table. It wasn't what the Soto was looking for at that point in his career. They traded him. I don't know if they had those conversations in season in San Diego before they eventually moved on from him. But I would suspect in the case of Juan Soto right now, this is less about what happened with some of Boras's top clients in this previous offseason than it is Soto turned down big money from Washington.
Huge.
He goes to San Diego, and the conventional wisdom was he was going to sign big there and stay there. That didn't happen. He doesn't have, when he was, let's just say 2 years ago, you're looking at him as a guy that's for sure Hall of Famer. He's maybe one of the greatest ever. And now it's like he's a really good player. He's an excellent player. He's one of the best hitters in the game. He's one of the best outfielders in the game. But he's not that guy that he was a couple of years ago. If he gets a chance at big Yankees money, hell yes, he'll talk and probably take it.
He's got to take it.
Yes. And I think it just goes back. Like you tried to leverage it with the Nationals and they traded you. I don't know what he was leveraging with San Diego. They made a couple other moves too, but they traded him. What does that tell? That by definition, I'm not saying that it negatively impacts his free agent value, but it does tell you there's two teams that were willing to move on from you.
Yeah, here's the one thing I would tell you. I don't want to hear any more from whether it's Jed or another GM, president type. Well, we only get 1 year of control, so we can't give up our top prospects. Because if the Yankees get a deal done, good for the Yankees that they rolled the dice on a really good player.
I agree. That's something I think is going to happen. I actually talked to Boras about this, and from his perspective, I wanted to hear how he would justify it. Because I knew he wasn't going to agree with me. The TV stuff is a big deal right now. The RSN model is going away so fast. It's disappearing faster than newspapers.
Yeah, right. Our old employer, NBC Sports Chicago, it sounds like everything I've read, and again, we don't work there anymore, but it sounds like they're not going to have the teams going forward after this season.
Right. And so where that comes into play is, and we've talked about this before, the RSN model meant that anybody, you go get Comcast Xfinity subscription. If you get one level up from the most basic, you basically get your local sports teams on there. And everybody pays, because that'll be packaged with some other channels that maybe the non-sports fan wants. Everybody pays for that. So 100% of their subscribers pay for the 30% of their subscribers that actually want the sports channels. And when you cut the cord and go to streaming, eventually the way this model is going to work is those 30% are the only people that are going to be buying your product. And then how are you going to price it? And if you price it too high, you're going to price some of them out. So there's not enough money. There's not as much money there as there was. And certainly the RSN model ballooned. It was until it popped here a few years ago.
Right.
Right before the Cubs missed 2 bubbles along the way. And as they went and built their marquee network. But what's going to happen moving forward? They say, well, they'll do what the NFL or the NBA does, right? And they'll just package them all and sell them. Nope, because the Yankees don't want any part of that. The Yankees don't want to give control to MLB as some sort of national.
Or the Dodgers.
Or the Dodgers, or the Cubs, or the Red Sox, go down the list. So you might wind up with 15 to 17 teams that are part of an MLB package that they can sell to whomever. Like they just did a deal with Roku, whomever. But it's 17 teams, and they don't include the Yankees or the Dodgers. So now who's going to buy it and for how much? And how much is that worth to those teams? And is there more disparity in the short term at least? Because nobody knows where this is going for sure in terms of revenues, but it's going to take at least a few years to sort out. So what happens in the meantime? Now we go back. Okay, now forget all that eye-glazing talk about revenues. That's going to impact contracts. And who's going to give contracts out? It's going to impact markets. So even if the Yankees or the Dodgers have the revenue, the Cubs have the revenue and are willing to go pay a bunch for somebody, the market may not be there where they have to, or as many of them, right? Because
you also have issues like Marquee. They only have one team, period. And you have all these cord cutters. Their ice cube keeps melting, and they're not, as of now, in a deal with YouTube or with Hulu, whereas some of the other networks have those, so their ice cube melts a little bit slower.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I know that firsthand because I have Hulu and no Cubs.
By the way, 8-0 Pirates. 8.
Oh, yeah, he's got tomorrow. That's a beautiful thing about baseball, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is that now? 4.
He's at 89 pitches, Hendricks, in the 5th. He's being paper cutted to death. 2 hits by Grandal, both barely getting the bat on it, knocking it in the outfield, and this one drives in 2 with 2 outs. This ball game is over.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that too. I mean, soft contact is a good thing, and it's his hallmark. But I don't know what to think when it's as you say, death by 1,000 paper cuts either. That's not a good sign. He needs more swing and miss too to be effective. Remember when we talk about Kyle Hendricks all those years when he was having 2-something ERAs and low 3 ERAs as well, these easy rollers to the shortstop or bouncers to second base. But there were a lot of strikeouts too. And he would downplay that over and over again. I'm not really looking for strikeouts. I'm not a strikeout guy, but with that soft contact comes swing and miss because guys are fooled.
Totally agree.
We're not as fooled.
Not anymore. All right, have a great day, okay, man?
All right, you too.
There's my guy, Gordon Wittenmeyer. Follow him at GWMLB. Follow me at the Capman. And if you want some Chasing Greatness merchandise, just go to our website, thecapman.com. Gordon, have a great day, man.
You too.
All right, take that.